right, we're from the Sage Plant Studios. Very excited to have a special guest today, Jesse Hutch, starring in the new film Homestead, which just opened nationwide in theaters this past Friday. We saw it. We loved it. We have one of the stars of the movie, Jesse Hutch. First of all, welcome. How did you get this awesome role?
Yeah, great question. Like most actors, you audition. But that was also a mix of, I think, the people involved. So this has been quite the journey, I think, for a lot of them to get this off the ground. So to make it short and sweet, it started with the torch. So if anyone's familiar with the Angel Studio system, you need to make a torch. It's not really a trailer. It has to be kind of a complete story, but yet have room to grow. And so how I originally got connected to anybody who even knows anybody on this was my wife's friend, who's a hairdresser, knew Andrea Royer, who's one of the producers, and was like, hey, you need to meet my friend Andrea and her business partner, Ben Smallbone. And they just did a documentary. And I know you like watching movies, so why don't you go watch this movie? So I went and watched this Johnny Cash documentary. And it was awesome. And I got to meet Andrea and briefly met Ben. And then we talked for like 30 seconds in the lobby because it was so busy and everybody was there to see them. And then that was it. And wow. Then fast forward maybe a couple months, like 4 or 5 months, maybe even 6. And I'm filming in Canada, Calgary, Alberta. And I get a phone call from Caitlin Cassica, who's married to Ben Cassica from Skyfalls Media. And so she's like, hey, I got your number from someone else that we're working with, Andrea and Ben. And I'm like, oh yeah, Radiate Films. Okay, great. And they're like, yeah, we're doing this torch and we think you'd be like great in it. Do you want to help us out? And I was like, man, I'd love to. And they're like, yeah, okay, we need you to film this weekend. And I'm like, I'm in Calgary, Alberta. What can I do to help? And they're like, okay, maybe we'll send a team to you and we'll just film it there. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy. I like these people already. They're all in. They're nuts. Yeah. They're going for it. They're getting it done. And it just didn't work. And so then I talked to my crew and I said, hey, could you guys help me shoot this thing over the weekend maybe? And so then I proposed that and I said, hey, I got my crew from this movie on board. They're willing to come in on the weekend. We'll use all our equipment. We'll shoot whatever you need. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll fly the DP up. Doesn't work. Can't make it happen. It goes away. I'm like, great. I missed the boat. I really love this concept. I thought the idea was fantastic. And I was like, man, I really support you guys, but we just couldn't make it work. So now fast forward another months, they finished the torch. I start seeing it. I'm like, man, that's really good. I missed out. And then eventually they're like, hey, we have a script. We're doing this, we're moving into production. We're moving forward. Do you want to, we think you'd be good for something. I'm like, man, I'd love to be in it. So I actually auditioned live over Zoom for the whole team.
Don't those suck?
They do, in general. You're right.
Because you can't read the room. You don't know, your pacing's off. There's a delay. It's just, those who don't know, it's like the hardest way.
I don't know.
Of auditioning and callbacks, all stuff. It's not a fun time.
So this is actually like part of my setup for when I audition. So it's a blue screen and it's a 3-light setup. It's super basic. And I literally did it with this in the background, but I did get my own reader so that I had someone on my own end because I don't want to deal with that, technology glitch or potential failure, and I can't see them. And then I'm like, wait, who am I looking at? Like I'm staring over here, and you're watching me going, who's he looking at? Like this doesn't feel real. So anyway, it was good in the sense that was when I was able to really get into it with Ben Smallbone, the director, and he was like, okay, do this, try that. Do that. And so I actually auditioned for 2 roles. I auditioned for Jeff Erickson and Evan Lee. And part of me was like, well, I kind of want to play Jeff because he's in it a lot more. And he's, and so I'm into that. What ended up happening was they were like, man, we really enjoyed your read. The whole team likes what you did. But, you're just a little too young to play Jeff, we think. And Evan has to be a local hire in Utah. So it's not going to work out. We have a role maybe later on if this thing goes to series, and maybe and it was like you could tell they were like, and I was so bummed. And crushed.
God, yeah,
absolutely. And so I it was like a week, man. And I was just like, man, this is still on my mind. It's still sitting on me. It's still bugging me that, and I just like reached out to them and was like, hey, I don't want to come across like that actor who's really needy and like, oh, please pick me and desperate.
Right.
It's not that. I really believe in this script. Everybody that I've met so far, I believe in you guys. And I said, I really think that Evan, I think I can do this, man. Like, what do I need to do? Like, do you guys need something? And they're like, man, it's just a matter of like budgetary and restrictions and where they're filming. And I said, okay, well, what do we got to do to make it work? Like, what do you need? And,
wow.
you know, I won't get into the nuts and bolts, all that, but we just all eventually made it work, and everybody came together, and I'm really thankful because on so many levels, I think that this role just feels right to me. And now that I'm in it and I'm seeing it and it's starting to play out, and we've got the feature film done and we've done 2 episodes of the series, I'm like, man, this is one of the coolest roles I've ever been able to play.
It's a home run. I mean, on all accounts, but like what you just described is more typical, I feel like, of people getting in a role than the linear process people think goes into getting a role. Most people think like, my agent called me, they said they want me, I start shooting Monday. It's like, dude, there's so much behind. It's hard to describe a lot of times. There's so many chefs in the kitchen, so much going on that you have to get through red tape and, you know, coming in and out of country, rates, all these things. But the fact of the matter is, you believe in the project, and it came through, not only in performance, but like in the performance of the whole film itself. So I mean, kudos to you, man, because it was an absolute home run.
Yeah, when we were
Thanks,
watching,
guys.
we went not as a couple with our well, no, your wife was sick. My girlfriend was there. Went with a group of people, and it looked like a huge blockbuster budgeted movie. It was, so you're watching this really incredible. I mean, the visuals are stunning, and then all the acting was so raw and intense. And then you added some levity to it, which Bailey mentioned that you would, Bailey Chase, and you definitely did. But one thing I want to tell you before we go any further is, independent of each other, both my girlfriend and I said, Jesse on film, if he doesn't do a movie as Ben Affleck's brother, then Hollywood's missing out. Like, when you're on screen, I'm like, the dude looks like he could be Ben Affleck's brother, not Casey Affleck, but like Ben, more like Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, more like Ben Affleck.
Have you ever heard that?
Yes, actually, a lot.
Okay, all right. Well, okay.
You're not on.
All right, because I was like, are we crazy? But she's like, I thought the same thing too.
But what Jared's hitting on, as far as like, you know, budgetary goes, because a lot of times, you know, you can tell based upon a film how it looks based on what the budget is, right? That's a normal protocol. That was not the case in this situation. I told Jared afterwards, it looked like the budget was about 5 times what it really was. And there's some secret sauce that goes into that. Is there any kind of, you know, light you can shine on that to show kind of like what they were able to do with a more limited budget that added so much gravitas and so much real gritty feeling that it felt like that $40-50 million budget film?
No, absolutely. And as you guys know, when you're doing a project and you get onto it, especially if you're just a performer or a producer, whatever your role is, you quickly have to develop a trust with everyone. And part of that as an actor is that you trust that if the actor shows up and the actor kind of leaves it all on the field, you're trusting that the camera operators are kind of collecting it, and the focus pullers are you know, focusing on it, and the audio team is listening to it, and the set decorators are decorating it, and like we all need each other. And there was this quick sort of bond of trust where it was, for me, I'm very technically driven, so I'm all about lenses and what cameras are we shooting on, and what's the tone, what's the, you know, what kind of LUTs you putting on this right now, just to give me a sense of what we're doing, and I'm kind of a geek that way, and so immediately I'm looking at the monitors going, okay, what are we setting up? What are the shots? What are they doing? A and B cam. What's the style here? And quickly I was like, okay, I'm in. I like this. I love that they're hitting different angles all the time. I love that they're getting creative and artsy. And I think like there's so many shots in the film, but for example, when they're pulling up to the gate, just that over the shoulder of Manny's character, Bing, just coming up to the gate, right? Nobody takes time to do stuff like that anymore. And it's like, well, I shouldn't say nobody. I mean, but on a lot of films, you're just rushed. And you end up just being a talking head standing on a mark, and you're a bobblehead. I'm acting, blah, 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 blah. And we move on. And instead it's like, man, you feel and see the wheels moving, you see the leaves, you see the passing of time in the sky, and that adds to it. Like, honestly, you feel like the homestead is a character too, right? Like, we didn't just blow over that. Like, the team really shot the homestead. You're seeing the mountains, you're seeing the gates, you're feeling the sprinkler systems, the apples, the fruit, the chickens. I mean, I think it's important that you tell story and draw people in, not just like close up on the face, we're done, we're moving on. You have to feel the world, and yet you want to do it in a way that I think, lighting is key and important. Man, Matthew, our DP, instantly was like, yes, love working with this guy.
Yeah.
Everybody's in there. They're like, figuring it out, and everybody's talking and bouncing ideas off of each other. And of course, the majority of our film and the series, now that we're rolling into that, is we're all on a legit 300-acre homestead. So we're actually jumping into ATVs. We're flying up the side of mountains. We're like setting up, on rocks, and like everybody's like, all right, we're getting this, and the sun's coming up, like, let's get it.
You're not on a set, and you can feel that. I think that so many things now are so fixed location in a set, and we're going to CGI everything. And I think people get tired of seeing that, and I think that added a lot in this film, was that it was all practical. Like you said, the homestead was a character. A lot of drone shots showing the whole space of itself, that's a real space. It's not the CGI, because it's hard to get invested when something, as you probably know, if you don't feel it's real. If you feel like it's just on a soundstage somewhere in Atlanta, you don't get that invested. But I think because it was shot this way, because I noticed the entire time, the DP, the director did take the chances and the time to do the over the shoulder shots, to show the texture of leaves falling, to show certain things that a lot of films, they're rushed. We got shot list, we got a hit, we have budget, we're losing light, we're doing all these things, but it felt like it took the time to shoot this film. What period of time did you guys shoot this over? The film specifically.
Oh, man, it was honestly, it was maybe 4 weeks.
Wow, that's great.
There was some splinter unit stuff, second unit stuff, but honestly, the majority of it was done in 3 weeks. It was kind of, that fourth week was a bit of a, okay, what's left? What do we got to do? And then ultimately they had to do some pickup shots, because thankfully we had time, probably through no choice of our own, where it was just like, okay, the movie's coming out here, and then it changed and it got pushed, and we're like, okay, let's fix some things if that's possible. And because you start screening things here privately, and you start getting feedback, and everybody's really great at just taking people's opinions and ideas and feedback. So one thing I wanted to say is, like, I've done a lot of projects in the romantic comedy world as well. And I'll tell you, man, we did this movie for pretty much the same budget that we do those rom-coms for. Really? And so go watch any rom-com and then watch this and go, wow. Why?
It's a big budget film. It feels like a budget movie.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of take the fan side of this when we have actors on, and Bo, obviously, as an actor, he kind of, the questions he's asked, which I find so fascinating. But when you said, like, the homestead, whose house is that?
That's Jason's house. So he was one of the creators and writers of the books, Black Autumn.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I was like, that's somebody's house. Whose house is that?
Yeah.
People see stuff like, they're like, okay, that's a real house. That's amazing. Yeah. But
yeah. So it's a legitimate, like, operating, working homestead. And when you see all that stuff, that's legit. Like, it's not fake. We're not messing around. We're actually hanging out in the orchards. We're actually, over by the ponds, looking at real fish that are developed and created for life, and this whole ecosystem of existence. And so Jason's dialed in, man. He's a smart guy. You walk with him and you talk about the fields and the irrigation systems and the solar panels, and you're just like, it's like, what is happening?
Yeah, no, it's like a dream location. I mean, and to say that the people you surround yourself with on a project are just as important as those. He comes to the sports world of like a team. To rely on those your players, but your coach or your director, that paints the picture. Because what this did with the same budget that you would do, say, a rom-com that we've done, the rom-coms we've done are very formulaic. And I think that people like that in some context.
Yeah.
But I think for people probably like you and definitely like me, it's like I want to play outside of what maybe even I'm comfortable doing. Because this role is for Evan, your character, is a dream role for someone like myself. And I'm sure you as well, to have, you got an M4 on you all the time. You got body armor. You're talking you technicals. And it's like you're playing G.I. Joe with pretend. I mean, that's like a dream role. It
really is. I honestly am like, yes. Oh, thank God. It's like, it's really, I'm thankful, man. That's all I can say. I'm really thankful. And, I love analogies as well. And I also played sports growing up. So I really feel that this was one of those projects where we all have been paddling this canoe with our hands, making it work, just getting it done, because we all, generally have a heart for this content and the material and each other and the people that are making it. And I got to tell you, there was a point where even when we were kind of getting into it, I didn't know this till after I'm talking to the cast, but a lot of us as cast, like a lot of our teams behind the scenes, were looking at the sort of new approach to this. And it was like, what is this? Is this a movie? Is it a series? It's both. It's neither. Maybe don't do this. That was the majority of our teams sort of said that, and they weren't wrong. Like I could see their perspective. I know what they're laying down, and it was different. It was a different approach. And but yet, as you know, Bo, when you're the performer, you're like, yeah, but I read the script, man, and there's like something there. And then as I'm getting to know the people, I'm like, man, there's more there now.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I got to do this. Like I really felt like God was putting on my heart, like, you need to do this no matter what. And I was like, no matter what. Okay. And as we just kept kind of inching this thing down the field, and then I started meeting all the other cast, and we started filming the movie, and we all started to hang out and actually have these like heart to heart talks. I really found out that the majority of us felt like we have to do this. I don't know what, something is just urging us to continue to do this. And honestly, now it's like on the screen, and it's kind of like, all right, everybody gets to go watch the instant replay, and everyone gets to judge it, and that's what they're doing, right? I mean, I've read some of the responses and critics.
Oh, you read responses? You read reviews? I don't do either. My wife will tell me, did you see what? I'm like, nope, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm opposite. If I were an actor, I would read everything.
He reads all the comments on social media. He's like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't.
Because I host a morning show, and so we give our opinions a lot. And so, we'll get, there'll be 1,000 nice compliments or comments, and there'll be one like, Jared's an a-hole. And I'm like, who is this person? Like going on their Instagram page, like, well, you're a loser. You're a loser. I don't say it, but I'm looking like, and I'm like, I shouldn't do that.
So if you want to get under Jared's skin, just comment on something, you're a loser, and he will check out your profile. Yeah. That's like a surefire way of doing it.
No, but we met Jesse briefly. Yeah. We were at Jill Wagner's event. She had Merry Movie Nights at her. And I interviewed her many years ago because she's from our area, I should say. And when she was hosting Wipeout on ABC, and she comes in and she's, modeling background, but she's a local girl. We're like, oh, so excited for her. And she does some other things, but that was like a big thing for her. And then I shared with her that I'm watching Lioness because Bo recommended it, not knowing that she was in it. I watched the whole thing. I was like, this show, I love this show. And at the end, it said Jill Wagner. I go, wait a minute. I know a Jill Wagner. Yeah, it's not like the most uncommon name, but and sure enough, it's Jill, and she plays like this really cool character. Yeah. And so we had her on the podcast and on our morning show, and then she invited us out to the Merry Movie Night on her farm in Tennessee. And she said, oh, and then Jesse, who I'm in this film with, that they showed on the property, a Christmas movie, Northern Lights Christmas, right? Northern Lights Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas Under the Northern Lights.
Christmas. All right.
He always does to me too. He doesn't know anything.
I'm like,
he's always squared the names of my movies.
I'm like Country Roads, music. Anyway,
it's okay.
He does on purpose, I'm pretty sure.
They're usually like something love or Christmas Love.
Yeah,
it's just like they're all very similar.
Title, you're close.
So we met briefly there. You're really nice. And then since we're at this point, I was out on her porch, like filming something or this Airbnb thing, and I came back in. I walked past you, and I think you had like 2 hours of sleep. And I just put my hand on your shoulder. I was like, man, nice to meet you or whatever. And you're like, And then you're like, hey, we should get up sometime for like an interview. I was like, he's just being nice. And I was like,
He did say
okay.
that.
And I said, hey, can I get your phone number, your public? We can go through your publicist. I don't want to be that guy. You're like, no, we tapped phones. And I still was like, well, I think he's just being nice. Like, wait, you got his phone number? I was like, I don't know. I think it was like an awkward thing, you know. But anyway, so first of all, thank you. And then, so Jill Wagner, you met her on that movie set, and then she's going to be in the show, right, with you? Is that correct?
Yeah, no, Jill and I met actually before she started season 1 of Lioness. We were at something called Christmas Con, where they bring all of us together and people come out, and it's just a big Christmas like fiesta. It's wild. Thousands and thousands of people come and just say hi and hang out and just want to talk Christmas movies. So I met her there, and I love training too, and I'm in the gym all the time, and I overheard her talking about, like, you know, I got to get a bunch of triceps and I'm having this much protein. I'm like, well, what kind of protein you taking? And I'm like, and I kind of got right in there, and next thing you know, we're just like the only 2 actors in this room that are like in the corner going like, yeah, how many squats you doing? Okay, how many sets and reps are you like? Are you circulating that? Like, and we just geeked out about working out. She's like, yeah, I'm on this new show. It's like Lioness. I'm like, sick. I've been hearing about that. Congrats. And then just kept sort of messaging here and there on social media. And then eventually she was doing a Christmas movie. And she's like, man, I really think you'd be good as the other guy in this. I put your name in the hat just so you know. And I'm like, oh, wow, thank you. I appreciate that. And then we ended up doing it. And so we did that film. We shot it last January. In Northern Canada, and it just came out for this Christmas. And so yeah, we've been building this relationship. And then I went to her farm for the patriotic pick that she does to raise money for nonprofit. And as I'm on my way there, we're kind of getting ready to maybe do these 2 episodes of the series, right? It's like, okay, I think we're doing this. Like, we're greenlit, we're going. Okay, oh my goodness. And it's like, rush, we got to go. And I'm hearing about, you know, Jacqueline, the character Jack. And I was like, did you guys cast that yet? And they're like, nope, we're trying to find, you know, somebody that, and it's just not working out. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I was texting with Andrea, and through a series of events, she ultimately was like, Jill would be great. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. She'd be great. I agree with you. I'm like, but like, I just assumed you guys cast it already. And she's like, no. She's like, would you talk to her? And I'm like, I'm literally on my way to her farm right now. And so we do this huge event. Everything's happening. It's late at night. It's like midnight or who knows what. And we're sitting in the kitchen and everybody's kind of barely hanging on. And I go, hey, got to talk to you about this Homestead thing. And she goes, oh yeah, I know you did the movie. And I was like, yeah, well, we got this role. We're doing this thing. And I just got real with her. And I said, look, this is what we're doing. This is where we're at. This is what the budget's probably going to be. Just sort of wanted to connect you with it, because I think honestly, you'd be really, really good in this role. And then, you know, the Homestead team reached out to official channels. She knew it was coming on a personal level, and she took it from there. And even her husband was David, who's a great guy, was on board. And he's like, Jill, I think you need to do this. Like, I'm looking through stuff, and it just, I don't know, something feels right about this. And she's like, yeah, I think you're right. So ultimately, yes, she's in the 2 episodes. I don't know if you guys have gotten to see them yet, but
not yet. Yeah, we're going to watch it. Yeah.
So they're on the Angel Guild, and I just watched them again last night with my kids. It was the first time they'd seen them, and man, I got to tell you, like we got a show, guys.
Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't even in it. Like I was watching. I'm like all in. Like, who are these people? What are we doing? Where are we going? What's that little girl doing? She's seeing stuff. It's happening.
Yeah.
There's teenagers falling in love. We got threats on the Homestead. I'm all in, and I'm genuinely.
You got Bailey Chase smoldering in the corner. I mean,
oh yeah, he's like the Dwayne Johnson. Oh, the eagle and the.
Oh yeah. No, Bailey's the best. Well, dude, I mean, we know that the series is gonna be amazing, because if it's anything like the movie, it's going to be a home run. I mean, this could run a long time. And we've told everyone about it because, honestly, we're encouraging people. Not only is it like a feel-good movie, but the quality of the movie itself would stand up to any movie in the box office right now. I mean, I've seen pretty much all of them. And I'm not just trying to, stroke your ego a bit.
No, I mean, he said that after the movie's like, dude, because we're both kind of nerdy with movie stuff, like, even though I'm not an actor. And we're like, oh, this is the budget. We're like, no way. There's no way they made it for this.
Well, because sometimes
it just looks so great.
You know, like if you see movies that you know the people that are in there, it kind of loses its mystique and it's not as exciting because you're like, oh, I know that, you know, it's commonplace. I did not feel that. Manny McCord, funny story about this. Manny, he may have told you the story or not, but we have modeled together. And he's like, hey, man, think about getting into acting. What should I do? So I said, da, 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 da. He's like, okay. He goes, and you get asked this question 100 times. No one does it. No one does what he suggests you should do. He goes, he does it. He comes back, he's like, hey, man, I'm in Homestead. I'm like, holy cow, dude. That's amazing. I'm so happy to see my man up on screen, too, because he does such a great job. I mean, the cast, the crew, everyone, it's literally top-notch, Jess. You should be very proud.
No, I am, man. It feels like I'm on this train that I had. Part of me feels like, why am I even here? This is like these people, the caliber, what they do is amazing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like in the series, I'm doing a scene with like Charles Eston, you know, from the series Nashville and Outer Banks. And I'm like, what? Oh, like, this is crazy. Like, this is happening right now. And then I'm doing scenes with Joe Wagner that is not a Christmas movie. And we're in it. And I'm like, Joe, we just did a scene that has nothing to do with Christmas. And we love Christmas. Don't get me wrong. We love that. But it was like so cool to also now jump to the other kind of side of things and be doing something completely different together.
Yeah.
And
then, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is it, I might have her last name wrong. I'm bad with names. Dawn Olivieri?
Yeah.
Because she's in
Lioness.
Lioness and Yellowstone, right?
Yeah.
Like a dramatic scene in the season. So like you're working with her. I mean, Neil McDonough. I mean, that cast is strong, man.
Yeah, and honestly, like when you say, like, if you really love the movie, trust me, the series actually, because you know it's a little bit of a different animal. So now we're crushing things into an episodic. Right now, you got 1 hour, so it's like okay, so we're cranking up the heat. I would say the lighting even gets a little more edgy, a little more dark and gritty, if I could, you know, explain it that way. The storytelling,
I love that
tightened.
tone. Sorry to catch on that. I said I love that tone of things. I love the grittiness. I love, you know, like a Michael Mann type, you know, where it's like it feels really like grounded and real. You get so much more invested in that. And speaking of Michael Mann, you know, a lot of times I like to ask actors questions that, you know, maybe other people maybe not would have thought of ask because I am an actor to come from that point of view. And, you know, you obviously have a plan of what you tried to do, what you want to do, where you want to work, who to work with, where you want to go. If you could just say, if there's a director right now that you say, if I could be in, I don't care if it's a Batgirl, if I could work with that director, I would do it. Who would be your tippity top right now?
Probably Guy Ritchie.
Dude, ask my wife. That's my number one guy. That's my number one guy. He's. I swear to you, and I've never met another actor that says Guy Ritchie. That's
seriously my guy too. Like, come on.
I swear to you.
Sherlock Holmes, The Gentleman. I mean, I watched
The Gentleman.
Oh yeah, he loves that.
And then the series. Oh, dude, he can do no wrong in my book. I mean, I love the dialogue. It's so quirky and funny, but really serious, like tone. But somehow you're still smiling while watching it. No, he does something that for me is just so enjoyable to watch. So that's crazy. You're Guy Ritchie too. Man.
Oh, 100%, man. And I actually love directing, so I'm working on.
Okay.
Kind of doing that project that finally comes out of the gate, you know what I mean? And we'll just see which one gets steam first. But I literally have another meeting, 2 meetings today.
Fantastic.
About this. And
so you're going to be getting the director's chair. You're a bold individual.
I've directed enough shorts and proof of concepts that I could probably build an entire future out of it. But I haven't done like that one thing, you know, that's been like, oh, that's a movie he did. Let's check that out.
Is that so you're wanting to kind of position yourself as a director?
Yeah, I love telling stories, man. And I love moving cameras around, and I love the collaboration of that thing. I really felt early in my career. So I've been 24 and a half years now pursuing this professionally.
Wow.
And I feel like I'm just starting now. Like I feel like I'm just at a point now where, like, I'm not there. I haven't made it. That's not what I mean. What I mean to say is, like, I believe that for a tree to be strong, it needs deep roots and it takes time. And anything you do that's worth doing, you have to invest, and it's not going to be quick. and it's not going to be short and fast, because if roots grow quick, the tree's weak and it falls over whenever, you know, a storm hits it. And I honestly feel that it's like, okay, I'm in a place now that I think, you know, I can handle leading your series. I can handle leading your movie. I can handle directing it. I understand like I've just been in the trenches, and it's where I love to be, like kind of on the mark in the middle of this tornado. And I get to be surrounded by these people that are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And early on, I just really felt like it was like, man, you need to ask questions, pay attention, and listen. And, you know, we have 2 ears and one mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak.
Right.
And I just started asking questions, man. And I just got into this. I was like, man, I love, like, what, okay, so we got one overkeeper. What's that crane called? That's, you know, that, what kind of techno crane we run? That's a scorpion crane. I'm in. I love it. How does it work? Oh, the weight's gonna move. Okay. And it's like, how do we tell stories? Yeah, but do it from the heart first. Like, technical shouldn't drive it. The heart should drive the technical. And we need the technical, but we need the heart. And
on that note, then, when you, for example, you're looking at a scene, you're looking at a script, they get more inside baseball information here. You're looking at a script, you're thinking, this is well written. However, in the moment, some could change. You could see something, you could feel something, and you're going to have the confidence to go that direction. Or are you like, no. This script is the Bible. This script is what we're going to be reading verbatim. How do you operate? Because every actor is different, you know. And so I know I operate, and it may be vastly different than you. But what kind of is your MO? Do you have the feeling you just go run with it, and you know the critics or what the director says, you know, we'll adjust that later? Or are you like, no, I'm going to nail everything on here exactly as it's written?
Yeah, I'm at the point now where I feel that I have enough of a career, and I'm allowed to ask a question, you know, like, it's okay. And I'm only going to ask it if I know I'm bringing something to the table that's worth it. Because let's not be the performers who come to the table and go, oh, and they're like, what are you talking about, man? Like, you just rewrote a whole scene. It has nothing to do with this. I don't know where you're going with that. So you got to play the game right. And you got to understand who you're working with, what you're doing, and what's the nature of this project. So that can change. Like, when I'm on a CW show and I'm playing, generally it's got to be verbatim. They do not let you slide and move. You got a commercial break that's coming up. So now you have a lot of things that you have to think about that are affecting that moment. In the case of Homestead, the team really allows us to kind of have these questions, you know, and again, ask it at the right time, propose it at the right place, make sure you get to the right people. And then also know that that's what you're here for. I mean, I sort of see it as, you're hiring me to be a professional of the heart of this character, and still keep the overall vision of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because when I'm on a romantic comedy set, that's going to be handled a little bit differently than when I'm on a Homestead set or when I'm doing Supernatural for the CW, you know. And so I do love to be inspired by the words, and I love when they let me kind of have a moment. Like, for example, in the movie, that whole, like, heart, you know, Tin Man. Hey, you know, if you remember that spot.
Yeah.
Was that involved in the apple?
Yeah.
Bailey said that was his favorite scene
in the whole movie. He says it's his favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, I saw that piece from him.
Yeah.
He's a brother, man. He's so supportive, and I'm so appreciative of him.
He's such a great guy.
And it's also one of my favorite scenes. It's just, you know, and what I like to do is I like to be prepared. I want to show up. I want to be on my A game. I want to know exactly what is written so that I can do what I'm asked. And yet at the same time, I like to be just unprepared enough that I'm kind of nervous. It's kind of what I call the butthole clench. It's like when action is said, it's like, oh, I don't actually know 100% how this is going to go. And that's where I like to live, because I don't want to know exactly, because if I show up and I'm that actor who's like, I'm set in my ways and nothing you do will affect me. Yeah. Then it's not
performance.
That's not real. That's not life. Like, if my wife comes to me and she says something, or my kids have something and they come to me and I go, this is the way it is, and I'm closed, that relationship's only gone so far in that moment. And I've learned that, and I'm still learning that, right? I get challenged every day. And so when you're bringing these characters to life, I leave this gap so that my fellow performers get to just fill that with whatever they're bringing to the table. And I'm going to go, okay, what are they doing? You know? And there's scenes in the series, like even with Charles, man, we had a scene and we were just like, something's off. Like, it doesn't feel, what are we doing? And we're trying to talk through it and we're trying to logically get there. And it's like, you know, and as you know, about the sun's always going down. We're always running out of time. And, you know, like it's a new thing every day, you know, everybody's
The
like,
sun
oh my
sets
goodness,
is so weird. We're always losing time.
we got to get the shot, people. And you're like, okay, woosah, you know,
Yeah.
gotta calm down here and get this. And man, him and I were just like, okay, you know what? This scene is a card game. Every line you say is you placing a card down, and my response is putting a card down. And let's just keep that up. And we did that in the last take. We basically had two kind of takes for our coverage, and it was like, the first one was like, okay, that was okay, we're getting there. And then that last take, it was just like his character kept trying to get the last word, and I was like, man. And I'm trying to one up him, and he's trying to one up me, and we're trying to show who's the bigger man. And in the moment, it was just like you could see his gears turning, and I'm looking straight in his eyes, man, and he's coming up with something, and he goes and he does this move, and I don't want to spoil alert it, but he does this move, you know, and he says his line, and it's such a jab, and he's so right in what he says and how he says it. And in my mind, I'm literally sitting there in the moment going like, you got to say something back and defend yourself. And the only thing I could think of, well, no, that's what Jesse would do. What would Evan do? And you know, and it wasn't this disconnected, like, but it was like in the moment, I was like, okay, I don't say anything. It's what I do right now that determines who I am, and I'm going to test to see who he is. And we did, and it just happened. We did this thing, and it was like, cut. And Ben was like, what was that? And we were like, oh, that was, we don't know. That was just, we're just in it. We're rolling with it.
Yeah, just the magic.
And that's kind of how the Apple scene was, man. It was, we were in it. We kind of knew what we had to say. All the bare bones were there. There's just a few things that you leave room for timing though, and pace. And when one person leaves and walks away, and, you know, when Bailey takes a breath, it's like, you have to pay attention to that stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you're, you know, your fellow performers literally like offering you something. Here you go. I made this for you. I made you this, whatever it is, a cup of coffee, and I put my heart and soul into it. And then you go, yeah, that's the stupidest thing you can do. And I've learned that from others who are way better than I am. And it's like, okay, you know what? Take what they just offered you, and then what are you going to do with it? And don't get me wrong, you need to know your character. You got to stand your ground. You can't be so, you know, Scripture says, don't be like the waves of the ocean going to and fro. Right. And I believe you kind of have to be like that as your character. You do have to know, but you still have to be malleable. And so anyways, Sam Sheridan was one of our producers on this, and dude's like got a resume and a track record where I'm like, oh, that's wow. This dude's done some stuff, like real stuff. It's crazy. And we did the take where I kind of ad-libbed a little bit of that Tin Man and the Heart stuff. And it was like, and I was just like, okay, I'm testing the waters. I'm pushing it. Right. And immediately after cut, and he's like 6'4", he's this huge, and he's coming across. And I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
This is it.
Okay, I push it too far. I did the actor thing. I said, you know, okay, all right. And he's like, Jesse. I'm like, yes, Sam, yes, sir. And he's like, he's like right here, and it's like, I'm like, oh man, I'm dead. I'm fired. It's over. And he's like, do that again. And he turns around and leaves, and I was like, oh, okay,
that's awesome. That's
okay.
Well, I like what you said. We're gonna let you go here. I like what you said about being nervous. I just watched a documentary just by chance. It was about Elvis Presley. I wouldn't say I'm a big Elvis fan. I don't have a feeling either way. It's like I appreciate it, I guess. But actually looking for something to watch to go to sleep. But it's the Elvis Presley documentary. It was called The Fall and Rise of Elvis Presley, and it's basically all centered around the '68 special, which I knew nothing about. But it's so well done, by the way. But I'm watching it, and Conan O'Brien's in it. He's a huge Elvis fan, and he said Elvis was so petrified, even though he was the biggest star in the world. He had a little bit of fall. He's in all these movies that weren't great, and the Colonel kind of forced him into these movies that he wasn't really happy. He did movies. He hadn't been on stage in 7 years, which is shocking. Wow. He's the biggest musician in the world, and I hadn't been on stage. And so he was super nervous. And Conan said, kind of like you said, that butt puckering thing, he said, if you're not nervous as a performer, I don't care what you're doing, it's not that important. It's not important enough to you. And he said, I always got the best out of me, and obviously got the best out of Elvis to have that nervous energy. Well, anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys that. That's for me.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, you're welcome.
No,
Tell
no,
your
that's-
friends. Now, how can
No,
people
good.
watch? We know Homestead is in theaters nationwide. We saw it. We loved it. Seriously, recommend it highly. Take your family. It's family friendly. It's great. It's gritty. It's all the things post-apocalyptic, nuclear explosions. You know, these situations that on paper you say, well, I would do this, but then the reality hits, you're like, I don't know if I'd let my friend through the gate.
Raise a lot more questions. Yeah.
But how can people watch the series if they want to watch it today?
I mean, as of right now, it's the Angel. You have to go to angelstudios.com. So I do recommend watching the movie first because it does set everything up. I've actually run into a number of fans who are a part of the guild already, and they're like, whoa, there's a new series. What's this? And they watched the 2 episodes and were like, they were really good, but I'm kind of confused. And it was like, yeah, you got to watch the movie, but the movie can't be on the streamer yet because the movie's in theaters. Right. And so contractually, generally, there's a certain amount of time that it has to live there, right? So that people can, you know, the movie theaters want to make their money too. So the movie has to sit there for a contractual amount of time before it can end up and exist on the streamer to be a part of the series. So go to movie theaters, watch the movie. At the very end, there's a QR code. You scan it. If you pay it forward, that's an Angel system. It's basically you saying, I'm going to buy a ticket for somebody else. And there are links even to that if you're interested in that. Like if you want to know, how does this pay it forward thing work? They actually have a really cool breakdown that you can find on the website. And it breaks down exactly how pay it forward works and where that money sits and what happens with it. And so it is there available for people to readily apply and get tickets. And so you scan the QR code, you can literally walk home from the theater that night and start watching the 2 episodes that we've shot already. This has been a building process. So they're building other things to go along with it. You can actually go to homesteadgear.com right now. It's up and running if you want to, you know, look into solar panels and knives and socks and irrigation systems and shortwave radios and food supplies like dried food, fire starting kits. All that stuff is up there. We also have a show that you can already watch on the Angel Guild called Homestead Family Survival. I'm one of the co-hosts, and we basically have been going around and actually interviewing people who own homesteads. And some of them are massive, and they're like, this is a professional homestead. And then some of them are like, man, I was like in the corporate world 6 months ago. We sold everything. We bought, 10 acres, and we own a cow now. And it's like, and we're making bread. And so we want to meet people where they're at. I believe Homestead is a film that doesn't ignore the fears of this potential situation, but we're not driven by the fear. We're actually driving people to hopefully find a way through that fear. And that's what's intriguing to me. And I think that through all these characters, people who watch this film hopefully recognize themselves in it somewhere, right? I did. I recognize myself as a dad. Right? I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a husband. I'm a stranger to people, right? And then you connect to these characters, right? Different times of life, and you're like, man, falling in love. Like, do you remember that time of your life? And what about doing that in this scenario? That's crazy. And then what about like being a dad and how you protect your kids? But then how do you be a military operator and function the way you're supposed to in front of the kids and the family that generally you're not around when you do this type of stuff? And then how do you be a farmer, right? You're raising crops, you have food, and then people are coming to you going, hey, I'm hungry and I don't have what you have. And you're like, whoa, I only have a certain amount. Do I share it? Do I give it? And so I think we're hitting so many themes here that I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'm thinking as a human being, I'm praying Homestead does so well that I can go buy my own homestead. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, I got to get some stuff in order. And I'm not afraid of it.
Every time I leave a situation like a homestead movie, I'm like, what don't I have that I need to have?
Yeah, exactly. And our church has taught us since and I don't know if the author of the book series or the book is a member of our church or not. I know Angel Studios has like LDS foundation, but our church has taught us since I was a little kid to have a year's supply of food, a year's supply of water, and not to be scared, just to be prepared.
Right.
And I know when we used to have that as a kid, our friends would come over and we have all this like food storage, and our friends were like, what are you, hoarders? I mean, preppers? And I'm like, no, it's something we're just taught to like be prepared and to, to make a plan. We have a full plan. But it could be for anything, like unemployment. If you're unemployed for a while, you have food, all these different things. But so, yeah, I don't know if there's any connection there, and I don't know if you know that or not. But when I was watching the movie, that's how I related to it, is that our church has taught us to always be prepared for the worst case scenario, but then live your life as if it's the best case scenario.
Best case scenario.
Yeah. No, that's.
There's not really a question there. Just
another
well, I don't know
monologue
if
from
it's
Jim.
LDS.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just those are some of the themes in there, and I'm like, it seems like there's some LDS connection, but but everyone relates to movies in different ways. Well, we know you got to go. You got a busy day. Your career's like on fire, and we're very happy to have met you just by chance, or maybe not, and not by chance, but
not by chance.
Not by chance.
Yeah.
And
Jesse, I'm excited about running into you one day on set, dude. Apparently, Betty says we're very similar, so I'm looking forward to see what that's going to look like.
Man, it'd be great to do something. Let's we should probably do an action movie with swords.
Yeah.
I'll bring the swords, man.
Because you have the swords.
I'll bring
right.
the swords.
He has all the swords. All right, Jesse, we appreciate
you, my friend.
Oh man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on. I honestly believe that time is one of the it's one of the most important currencies.
Oh, yeah.
And because when you spend it, it's gone. You're never getting it back. And so I really appreciate you guys like sitting down and taking the time, because you also have things going on in your world, and so I'm thankful.
But have a very Merry Christmas. Thanks again.
You too. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
All right.
Happy Easter. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Everything.
Happy anniversary.
All the things.
St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, we got it all. All right, brother.
See you, man.
Later, guys.
Later.
Dude, that was